in the second grade, because of the overpopulation of the war babies, the schools were overflowing, and they had to create an annex school. And they brought out of the woodwork an old woman who had been put to retirement, who was very sweet, but she tested us on what we had learned thus far. And the reward for the marking was that she rearranged our seating. So she put all of the A students in one row, and she called them bluebirds. All of the people who received general B's for their work, she put them in another row, and she called them robins. And all of the C students, she put them in another row, and she called them wrens. And all of the D students, or the failing students, she put them in another row, and she called them crows. I'd always liked crows. And I looked over at the A students, in my mind's eye, they all have their hands clasped and their shoulders are back, and they're looking very smug. And I thought, I don't like a single kid in that row. All you have to do to get in that row, which I don't care to be, is to listen to what she says and repeat it back. So I rebelled against it at an early age. And the thing that gave me the strength to do that was we had to copy a doghouse. It was a line drawing. It had a little bit of depth to it and a U-shaped door. And all the kids were elongated, or their perspective was inverted, and mine was pretty close to the copy. And I looked and I thought, okay, I may be here in the average row, but I drew the best doghouse. And from that day on, I forged an image of myself as an artist. And the kids that from then on always thought of me as an artist too, for some reason. I guess I just drew and drew and drew and drew, and kind of slept through the rest of the curriculum. If you played with the girls, they were following in the footsteps of their mothers, who were doing the "My laundry's whiter than your" dance, "My dolly's better than your dolly," if you played dress up, "My dress is nicer than yours." They played nurse or they played housewife, and I didn't find it particularly interesting. The boys, on the other hand, played Roy Rogers a lot, and they'd let me play because I had a cap pistol. Get your gun, Joan, you can be part of the posse. But they never let me be Roy Rogers. So I pleaded, for the better part of a summer, let me be Roy Rogers. You can't, you're a girl. So that Christmas, I asked for a Roy Rogers suit, which disturbed my mother. But they finally conceded, and they gave me part of it, a red Roy Rogers hat. It said red Roy Rogers in yellow letters, and a red Roy Rogers shirt with embroidery, machine embroidery, Roy Rogers across here, and gold fringe, and the holster. So the first warm day, I came out, it said Roy Rogers here and Roy Rogers here. And I said, let me be Roy Rogers today. You can't. Why not? You're a girl. I said, yeah, but look, it says Roy Rogers here and it says Roy Rogers here. Well, that means you're Dale Evans. Why? Well, because you're wearing Roy Rogers' clothes. Well, what does she do? Well, she stays home and cooks. Come on, man, over the rise. So all my life, in a certain way, I've been in the, they wouldn't let me be Roy Rogers. I found out later from a book about astrology, a genius book on astrology, that my authority basically is always in question. So anyway, the Roy Rogers thing kind of prepared me for my adult life, where I was basically one of a handful of women doing what I was doing at that time, surrounded by men, dominated by male opinion. But yeah, the Roy Rogers routine was the way of the world. Well, nobody knows, where I caught polio. They didn't diagnose it on the first day. It took them a few days to figure out what I had. I was shipped by ambulance plane to Saskatoon. The flight was beautiful, and I remember it being very poetic, because every 7 miles between North Battleford and Saskatoon was a small town, and at night they were like, I remember writing in the 5th grade or something that they were like topaz brooches on the black velvet land or something, cornball like that. But that's what they looked like. We were flying over these glittering spots, all the way to Saskatoon. The polio ward was annexed off of St. Paul's Hospital with trailers, with ramps leading up to them. So we were isolated from the rest of the hospital population, and it was presided over by these rustling nuns. And as Christmas neared, there was a terrible longing to go home. And my mother ventured in a couple of times, which was very brave. I just remember her worried eyes over the masks that they wore. And she brought me a small Christmas tree and decorations, which I still have 3 of them that I put on my Christmas tree every year that are left. The therapist had been in that day, and I'd said to him, I want to go home for Christmas. Well, you can't, he said. I said, well, why not? Well, because you can't walk. Well, what if I walked, I said. He said, well, you can't. I said, well, you can't even stand up. I said, what if I stood up and walked? And he just hung his head. He didn't answer me. So I thought, okay, I'm going home for Christmas. Send in your therapist. They used to bring these scalding rags in cauldrons, and they'd pin them all over you, and it would bring you up to just before blistering. It was scalding. And the therapist would come in and try to bend you back into shape, and it was terribly painful. So one day I said, okay, I want to try and walk. I don't know who I prayed to, but I think I prayed to the tree. But I made a promise to whatever it was. I addressed it to the tree. I said, I am not a cripple. I am not a cripple. I am not a cripple. I'm going home for Christmas. If I can pull this off, I'll make it up to you. So I walked. I went home for Christmas. So polio, in a certain way, did me a solid. It kind of germinated an inner life, I think, also. And a sense of the mystic. Definitely, it was mystical to come back from that disease. In the 6th grade, I was pinning up some drawings for a parent-teacher day when a new teacher, Kratzman, came up to me and said, you like to paint? I said, yes. If you can paint with a brush, he said, you can paint with words. I'll see you next year. He gave me permission to be both a writer and a painter. He was a wonderful teacher. He took one look at the curriculum and said, it's all a bunch of crap. I'll cram you at the end of the year. You don't need to know any of this. I'll teach you what I know. I don't know much, but I know Australia and I love this book, Rudyard Kipling's Kim. So we spent the morning sitting and reading from Rudyard Kipling's Kim. Well, at that time, I felt very estranged from my parents. I felt orphaned. And this was about an orphan boy in India. And also, there were many things about being a girl that I had a problem with. It was very limited for my spirit, So I identified totally with Orphan Kim, who was a master of disguises and was a very good observer. Frankie McKittrick and I went to movies that horrified my mother. She couldn't believe we went to Tales of Hoffman. Then we went to see this Kirk Douglas movie, The Story of Three Loves, and the theme from it was Variations on a Theme by Paganini, but it came out on a record called The Story of Three Loves. That piece just knocked my socks off. I had to hear it again. I can't think of anything else like that. I used to go down, and I asked if I could have it, but we couldn't afford it. Nobody charged anything, and the budget was tight. So I would go down to the store across from my dad's store on King Street in North Battleford, take it out of the brown paper, take it into the listening booth, play it a couple of times, and swoon, put it back in, go see my dad. And the next time I come downtown, I do the same thing. I had to hear it again. And then the next piece that was like that was Trois Cloches with Les Compagnons de Chanson, Edith Piaf. My hair all stood up on edge. The emotional intensity of both those pieces of music really stirred me up. Everything else was not. I like music. Oh, it's pleasant. That's really nice. Mm-hmm. But those two just nailed me. They hit some raw nerve inside. I've been very vocal about contemporary music. To me, it's ick as opposed to music because the muse is absent. The muse in music has a divine quality to it and a mysterious quality to it. I think because men need to solve things and to come to conclusions. The sus chord, there's a law that Wayne Shorter told me, never stay on a sus chord too long, never go from a sus chord to a sus chord. Well, I know I'm going from a sus chord to a sus chord to a sus chord. Chords of inquiry, because my life was full of questions. When are they going to drop the big one? Where's my daughter? There were so many unresolved things in me that those chords suited me. And, like I'd stay in unresolved emotionality for days and days, so here's a depiction. Why can't you just go 3 chords unresolved like that? And then when you hit a major or even a minor in the progression, boom, there's quite a dramatic change coming out of that into resolution or and I hadn't heard chords put quite that way before. These are Joni's weird chords, everybody's been saying, what, the Martians are here, Joni's, the Martians are here. When David Crosby would pick up a guitar that I just touched and he'd go bling, they go, oh, the Martians have been here. And not having studied music, when I reinvented the wheel. So like being self-taught, I went, oh, if you too many of them and it gets uninteresting again. But then if you suddenly break to a major or minor, it's like a good short story. The character goes through a change. I mean, it truly is a change, that's more like what I feel inside. I'm born the week of depth on the day of the discoverer with this need to find something that sounds, it's exciting to me to find something that sounds fresh. Maybe I never really loved. I guess that is the truth. I spent my whole life in clouds. Yeah, but love, not romantic love. I'm hip to romantic love. It's a trick of nature, It's a joke, It's funny. It amuses me at this point. But love, and the best description of what love is, I found in Corinthians, which I set to music, is really just about the most valuable thing that there is, and that is the most instructive piece of writing as to what it is and what it isn't that I've ever come upon. But that's not romantic love. On this album that I just finished, I put Job from the Old Testament and love, which is Corinthians from the New Testament, which are two of my favorite passages. Job doubting God, in the Old Testament. That seems like one of the most intelligent passages in the Old Testament to me. It should be doubted, like, and love, as it's put forth in the New Testament, is, love never looks for love. Love's not puffed up or envious or touchy, because it rejoices in the truth, not in iniquity. Love sees as a child sees. As a child, I spoke as a child. I thought and I understood as a child. But when I became a woman, I put away childish things and began to see through a glass darkly. But as a child, I saw it face to face. Now I only know it in part. Fractions in me of faith and hope and love. And of these great three, love's the greatest beauty. Love's the greatest beauty. That still rings true to me, We were in this misguided notion of free love, which was really a joke, and especially in the summer of love when I was singled out by my own generation, as that love bandit diagram. That really drove it home, that the whore Madonna thing would never go away. I mean, we went through complex social upheaval, and I was at the heart of it as the rhetoric rang hollow. I was not an anarchist, there was no free love. It came with great strings attached. It was free for men, but not for women, same as it ever was. Pain is a teacher, one of the best, actually. A lot of cultures simulate it, the penitentes, because, it produces visions and insights. And, just the natural course of diseases that I've had to fight off, each one of them has germinated some other quality. As Nietzsche says, that which doesn't kill me makes me strong.